So now let's get into something a little more fun and juicy. So tell me about your love life.
Oh God, what love life. So I mean, I guess though, when we were talking earlier, the one thing that I think, I don't know, everybody goes through this, but it's always your first love that's the hardest and you remember it the most. So in college, I worked with one of my coworkers, obviously, and he and we became really good friends. I mean, just inseparable, we did everything together. We could talk for hours and it would feel like 20 minutes. We just understood each other, and he made me feel incredibly safe. And I never realized, but for me, feeling safe with someone is really, really important because I didn't have much of it growing up. So I realized, oh, this is what really is something that I need. It's not something necessarily that you don't really realize that it's something everyone wants to feel safe. But I realized for me, there's no relationship without me feeling safe, without me feeling like it's okay to be vulnerable, because I am not very good with vulnerability. I'd literally rather get stabbed in the face. Like I just, vulnerability is not my thing, and I'm just awful at it. Which is partially why I really don't date that much now. Even I haven't dated in a while. But anyway, he and I were best friends for like a good 7 to 8 years. So I didn't actually fall immediately in love with him. I didn't realize until about 3 years into this friendship. I'm like, oh, I think I like this guy, and everyone's just like, I mean, everyone's eyes rolled. I mean, oh my God. I think people were just like, wow, obvious statement of the year. Excellent. Deserve an award. And so, but then I'm one of those people where I fall really hard. Not that everyone doesn't fall really hard, but because of how hard I fall for someone when I do, it's very hard for me to pick myself back up. And I will say, like, we also never really had that conversation, we never really had the conversation about how we felt about each other. I never was, I guess, strong or confident enough to tell him flat out, like, hey, I like you, and I need to know what we're going to do about this. And he never had the guts to tell me that he really never felt that way about me. So, um, you know, we just danced around this elephant in the room for our entire friendship. And I think the only time I ever told him I loved him was the only time it was also ironically, but not that ironically, the only time I've ever been drunk in my life. And in that, I think the only reason I was drunk was because I felt safe enough to be like drunk around him and lose the reins of control, which I'm not very good at letting go. But, that was the only time I ever told him. But I think, through all of that entire friendship, I only told him that night, and I told him I loved him. And that was, so that, when you say that, it's kind of like, oh, I don't like you anymore, but that's how I felt about you. But see, that was a lie. I was still very much in love with him. I was just trying to keep telling myself that I wasn't, because I knew nothing was ever going to happen. And nothing ever did. We stayed friends for a long time, but when he told me he was getting married. And it was to this incredible woman. I mean, she's just such a badass. I mean, oh man, I mean, he could. I just think she's incredible, right? I think she's a badass. They've known each other for 10 plus years. They've been on and off, on and off. But he told me he was getting married, and in my head, I was like, okay, like I'm over this. I'm actually genuinely very happy for him. And then the more I thought of it, the more I realized it's not that I'm not genuinely happy for him, but it's like, at what point do I stop setting myself on fire? Because A, neither one of us want to have this conversation, and B, I want to be a good friend, and I don't want to let my feelings get in the way, of our friendship, and make sure that he's not uncomfortable. At what point, I mean, in my head, I realized I asked myself, how would I feel about if I had to watch him marry someone else? I'm like, well, it would kill me. It would suck. It would be horrible to watch somebody that I love, somebody that I dreamed about marrying for years, marry somebody else. And I'm going to his wedding. Why? Because I just want to make him feel better and, keep up appearances and keep pretending like this doesn't bother me. Excuse me. Not only is that incredibly unfair to me? That's incredibly unfair to him and to his future bride. I mean, she doesn't know what's going on, and that's not her fault. But I mean, that I would not want some girl at my wedding who was like secretly in love with my husband. You know what I mean? That's just not classy behavior at all. So I ended up calling him and I said, we need to talk. And we broke up the friendship basically, which felt like it felt as intense as a breakup. I mean, because we were best friends. So not only did I lose someone that I loved very much, but it didn't start out as romantic love. It started out as friendship, platonic love. We just had each other's back through some of the hardest times in each of our lives. I was having really a lot of troubles at home, and he was having troubles at home. And there was a point where he was questioning his entire life trajectory, and I was the one who was there with him. I helped him buy his first house. We just did everything together, and we were just such quality friends. And I've had maybe only one friendship like that in my entire life. And so to lose that really sucked. It was, again, yeah, I lost the man that I loved, but I also lost my best friend. And I've really never had a friendship quite like that again. It was super unique, and it sucked. And there are days where I don't miss him so much as I miss our friendship. And there are so many days where I hate that I felt about him the way that I did, because if I didn't, maybe we'd still be friends now. Maybe I wouldn't have had to let anything go. Maybe I wouldn't have had to cut a part of my life that made my life so much better and so much more interesting and just fun. We talked about everything, and I loved seeing him. Even before I was in love with him, I loved seeing him. So, yeah, that's the juicy details. And we have never talked since the day we ended that friendship. It's been what, like 3 years now, almost, I think.
Wow. I just want to take a moment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for opening up about that. It's not an easy feat for anyone to open up about such a loss that they've endured at such a young age in their life.
Right.
But
I appreciate you calling it a loss, because I don't think people think of it as a loss. They're not like, oh, you didn't actually lose him, he's still alive. I'm like, but it is. You're allowed to grieve something like that, like a loss, because it is a loss. Just because they're not gone from the earth doesn't mean that it's not a loss.
Yeah, definitely. I think losing a friendship is as much of a loss than losing a romantic relationship, if not more,
Right.
if not more difficult to go through and harder to get over. Because, like you said, you guys were inseparable for 8 or so years, and you guys were best friends to each other. And strictly platonic, and never got any further than that. But when you have such an intimate bond with someone in a way that you trust them so much, and especially when it's already hard for you to be vulnerable to other people, but for you guys provided that for each other, and you were able to feel safe. And that's all we want at the end of the day, right? Is someone to feel safe around and feel comfortable to be ourselves. So as you were speaking, my heart just goes out to you. I just can't help it. I feel like every part of that equates to a loss in my eyes, because you had this strong bond with a friend, a confidant, who you guys backed each other up and went through so many life experiences together. And for him to, marry someone else and no longer be a part of your life, how are you supposed to deal with that? Like, how is anyone supposed to deal with that out of nowhere?
Yeah, it was hard. It's not that I'm not over it anymore. It's more like, I'm kind of, I don't know how to say, like, I'm not dead inside. That's a little dramatic, but it is hard. And I don't, and I don't think I compare other people to him. It's not like I'm like, oh, are they just like him? It will, you know, our friendship be just like that. But it's more like, it's a very intense, it was a very intense loss, and something that I still feel every now and then. Like, you know, grief still comes, it comes in waves, right? So it still comes in waves. And I've just really never had the desire to, I don't really put myself out there anymore. I've never dated really ever since then. I just don't have that desire. I'm like, I'm too tired, you know, recovering from something like that. I'm like, I'm a little tired. So I just kind of go through my day. I just go to work. I make friends. You know, I do my other job, and then I work on projects for myself, because that's just kind of how I cope with things. I keep myself very busy so I don't have to think about it. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to be honest with yourself if you're like, I'm not ready. And if someone says, but it's been 5 years, it doesn't matter. It's your life. You know, when you're ready, you be ready. And I think, you know, especially as a woman, I think it's great if you decide to focus on yourself and work on what you want to do, and whatever that might be. I'm not saying it's bad to want to be in love and want to be in a relationship, but I think it's not everything. It's okay. It's all right. Like, if you're like, you know what, I'm just kind of not into it right now, that's okay. You know, love yourself with that much intensity. Love your friends with that much intensity. I love that you said friendships are just as much of a loss, if not more intensely, because it is, you know, I mean, friendships, I even have a whole chapter in my book dedicated to friendships, because I think friendships are just such underrated relationships, especially in the society where all they do is seem to value romantic relationships. But it's like, at the end of the day, like, friends are the ones who are going to pick me up. Friends are the one who I want to call first. Friends are, you know, they're your homies. Then friends tend to be your ride or dies more so than your significant other, often, at least I find. So I pour that love into other people. That's okay. It's all right if you're not constantly in some type of romantic relationship, especially as women, because they, you know, people always ask society for women, like, oh, are you dating? Oh, when are you getting married? Oh, all this jazz. And it's like, why does that matter? I don't I don't ever see guys get asked the same amount of when are you going to get a girlfriend questions as I get when are you going to get a boyfriend, when I fucking feel like it. Like, that's my answer. So, you know, in this era where women can be whatever they want without any type of not control, but like, be whatever the fuck you want to be. And if that's, I don't want to be with a man for a while, that's all right. That's great. Go celebrate yourself. Go be what you want to do. Go do what you want to do. And, you know, people are like, oh, it's because you don't know how to deal with this, or, you know, you maybe you were in love and you're really not kind of over it. I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of. I don't think that's anything to be like, oh, I'm pathetic because I'm not over a certain relationship. I used to feel like that all the time. I didn't even date this guy, right? I didn't even date him. And yet I'm still, it's again, it's not that I'm not over it, but it's like, nah. I think I look at dating and I'm like, meh, you know, I really only had eyes for one man. And I've really never had eyes for anybody else ever since. And that's, is it lonely? Yes. Does it suck? Yes. Could I put myself out there? Sure. But I also don't believe that's something I have to do just because others tell me to do. It's something that you should do because you want to do it and you are ready. So in the meantime, I focused on myself. I focused on my job. I focused on doing things that I wanted to do. And it did help me heal a lot because it helped me learn more about myself, to become more confident in myself and love myself a little bit more. And so I think that, I mean, this goes for guys too, right? It goes for anybody who finds any type of solace in that story of, you know, how do I move from something that everyone else would seems to get over quicker than I can? There's no, you're not stronger because you get over a shitty situation like that quicker. You're stronger if you can be honest and courageous with yourself to say, I need more time, or I need some space, or I'm really not there right now. That, I think, takes a lot more courage, and that takes a lot more strength to do than to just heal from something like that on a society timeline and timetable.
Exactly. And especially the topic of relationships, whether it's friends or romantic relationships, the whole arena is just very nuanced, and there are so many intricate details and customs and emotions and just very nuanced subjects that are involved. But I do like that you said that there is no timeline in society. People expect you to, reach a certain timeline or a certain phase in your life at a certain age, or they expect you to grieve and be done getting over an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend in a certain amount of time. Like, oh, shouldn't you have moved on by now? But there is no manual for that. And grieving a loss such as a death and grieving a loss such as a lost friend, I mean, you really have no access to him anymore. It's been 3 years, and it really is kind of like, he's no longer here with you because you guys were inseparable, and now you have no access to him. And it was very brave of you, both of you, to have decided that, this is not going to go on any further. We're not going to be friends anymore because of the love that you felt for him, for someone that's about to get married. And not many people can do that either. So that was very brave of you guys to do. If it was right or wrong, no one knows. There really is no right or wrong in anything that we decide. There's only what is, what currently is, and the present. And so whatever decision that you made, you just have to be happy about it for yourself, and that this is what we decided on, and this is what it's going to be. So let's move on from that. But there's no saying that you have to move on and be, happy and satisfied and not ever have regrets or think about the past at all. You can still move on like you did, and you're still pursuing other things in your life and not completely stuck because of what happened to you in that situation. But yet you still have those thoughts of grief and that love that you still carry for him. You're still allowed to feel those things, very much so. You can still move on like you did very well, but still, we're still human. We still have emotions. We still get sad. We still feel depressed. We still feel regret. So I really hope that other people can relate to this story that you shared. Thank you so much for being vulnerable. And I feel like I can understand and connect with you a little better as well. And this all sounds very tragic to me, honestly. And what you said earlier too about what society ingrains in us ever since we're young, I thought about like Bollywood movies and American movies and Disney and princess fairy tale chick flicks, especially rom-coms. They give us a very skewed portrayal on what love should be. And even, the classic novels, Romeo and Juliet, Pride and Prejudice, like all of those, like when you're young, you enjoy those stories and fairy tales and, oh, princess and princes. When you love each other, you literally die for each other and there's no other option. Or
I always thought Romeo and Juliet, like I remember reading that when I was a kid and I was like, what the fuck? Like I just remember reading this being like, why didn't he just like see if she had a pulse, or like why didn't he just wait 15 minutes, or why didn't they come up with the whole time? All I could think of reading this book was, all this is an advertisement of why communications is incredibly important. I just remember laughing. I'm like, this is considered a classic. Like this has so many plot holes to me. You know what I mean? And I always remember thinking, why is this glamorized? Why is this glamorized? Literally killing yourself for someone you love, and that's how you prove you love somebody. That just never made sense to me.
Exactly. And just like rom-coms and The Notebook, he was a jerk to her, but yet that's what we look at for the greatest love story in our time.
Yeah.
And you don't really notice it when you're young, but now that we're getting older, you look back and you're like, what the heck are they doing here?
Yeah, like this seems toxic, very much so. And I mean, I think the beauty about love is in real life, right? I think that's why we watch movies to escape, because they're so glamorous and so like, oh, that doesn't happen in real life. But I think there's something to be said about love happening in the smallest forms, you know? Someone brings you your favorite cup of ice cream because you've had a bad day or whatever it might be. I think love is spoken in so many languages, and in languages like, you know, nonverbal, verbal, action based, whatever it might be. I think that love is something that, like you said, there's no manual for it. And so however you choose to explore it, however you choose to work with it, and for that matter, if you have zero desire for it, I think that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. I know, I just don't. I think love also comes in many ways, shapes, and forms through many shapes of people. You know, not everybody cares for romantic love, and that's okay. Not everybody cares. And conversely, some people are like, I have my significant other, and that's all that person I need. That's okay. You know, I mean, as long as you and your partner are on the same page. But I think more that, you know, love is not in one definition. It can truly be whatever you want it to be. Maybe you love a mission that you're working for, you love your job, you love your community, whatever it might be. I think it's important to pour your love where it makes you come alive. Whatever it is you're pouring your love into makes you as an individual come alive, makes you want to be there, makes you feel good about yourself, makes you a better version of yourself every time you're there. So that's just my 2 cents on love on that, especially in that regard.
I think those are a pretty good 2 cents.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I wish it wasn't this way, but you know, media and society and our families, we're just so used to highlighting love and relationships. Like you said, oh, when are you going to get a boyfriend? When are you guys getting engaged? Like, when are you getting married? And I feel like I'm guilty of doing this sometimes as well, where if you're in front of a friend or a coworker, you make small talk and then you just go toward that topic. I catch myself doing this, like, oh, so how are you and your boyfriend doing? Are you guys planning on, you know, getting engaged or whatever? And that really is not the most important thing to talk about or the most interesting thing about that person that you're talking to. So to just summarize the person into the relationships they have, and so is married to so and this is how many kids they have, there's much more aspects of people that we can explore and different ways of showing love, like you said, through our work, through our community service, through the love that we share and our generosity to the rest of the world around us. So I really wish that people weren't so obsessed about love in the romantic sense. And again, I catch myself doing this, and I also feel guilty about wanting to care about that aspect about somebody. But I guess what I'm trying to highlight is just not to really focus on that area and to encourage people to live with motivation and with a mission and intent, and not really to live so that they can find their soulmate, because we're so used to getting that from media and from movies, and that's like the biggest thing, is the whole plot of your life is to find someone that you're meant to be with and marry them, and that's the story of your life.
Yeah, it's like, well, I think I'm going to rewrite my story because I don't like the plot. And I think if you want to rewrite your storyline, if you want to rewrite the script, go for it. Nothing should stop you, and no one should stop you.
I love that. I think you summarized it perfectly right there. So you are a self-proclaimed fashionista. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that.
I mean, I don't know. I think I'm not like an actual, I don't know. I love fashion. I don't know if and I would love to dress people for a living, but I think, you know, fashion goes along that same line of, I don't believe in waiting for a trend. I don't believe in waiting for the style to come back. I think fashion is a wonderful form of self-expression. You don't need to wait for anything or anyone to tell you when you can and cannot wear something. But my biggest fashion rule is you gotta wear what is you. You don't need to worry about what other people are wearing. What is you? There are days where I have very 80s looks. And people are like, oh, we're going retro today. I'm like, yeah, because I love the 80s and I love certain looks, so I wear them. You know, there's a lot of things where I don't believe you need to wait for the trend to come back. If you want to wear it, just wear it. You know, if you want to bring a style back for yourself, bring the style back for yourself. I think it's very much like, you know, if you want to change the plot, change it. And if you want to change your wardrobe and change your vibe, change your wardrobe and change your vibe. Life is too short to be waiting for other people to give you that approval to live life the way you want to live it. It's just too short.
How would you describe your personal style right now? Do you wear more like professional clothes for work, or are you more casual?
No, it's definitely professional. I'm just, you know, I go to work every day and I love dressing up for work. I mean, I'm literally known on the floor as like the fashionable, you know, mama queen, because I'm always dressed up. I like never repeat an outfit. The patterns are never repeated. I rotate color schemes throughout the week. I mean, I've got it all down, and I just love dressing up, and I love putting those outfits together. So, but it's definitely more professional, just because that's where I am. On the weekends, I'm often home working, so I don't really leave my house, which is sad, but I don't.
That's great. I would love to see some of these outfits that you're talking about. I could just imagine you like with your heels walking through this bank and
I'll have to send you pictures. Right now, we were doing a lot of renovating in the house this week. I'm trying to see if I wore my clothes.
Can you send me some and I
will send you my outfit tomorrow. I'll send you my outfits all this week.
Awesome. I'm gonna be posting those on the gram.
Yes, I'll send you outfits every week. And I'm not very active on social media, so you'll have to be like active for me. But
okay.
I'll send you one every week, and how I'm like not repeating same colors, not repeating same color schemes, like different jewelry, different heels, the works.
I love it. And anyone who's listening, if you like to hear more of Poonum, if you have any questions for her or things that she spoke about during our talk that you really connected to, go ahead and tweet me. It's at MFMP pod. So you can go ahead and send me a tweet or use hashtag MFMP pod. And I love to see what you guys connected with a lot during our conversation with Poonum. She got very vulnerable and emotional, and I just would love for you guys to also, those aching hearts out there, I want you guys to, you know, give us some love too. And send any questions that you have for a future episode that Poonum can maybe do for us. And now we're going to get to the... Awesome. We're going to get to the Hook You Up segment of the show now, where I ask my guests to recommend something that has added value to their life that they personally would recommend to their friends and family members that they would like to give a shout out to.
Oh, that's a good one. I think a book that was really powerful in a lot of different ways was The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It's a bit of a long read, and it's in a story, so you know it's bad writing. It's just that's really not what got to me. It's the material. There's parts of that where I'm like, you know, there's actual advice that you can incorporate in your life. You can actually do some of these practices and see the benefits. But The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, I think, has excellent life advice for sure. Something that I'd recommend everybody to read, just to think about it, see what they feel. Even if they think this is total crap, you get to learn a little bit more about yourself, about why you think it's total crap, and it helps you explore your own philosophy a little bit more. So definitely one of a good read. And then I think a show, I like watching TV as a way to relax. So I think a really big shout out that I like to give is, depends on your. I'll give you two shows. My feel good show is Psych and or Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's my feel good show. Something I watch on repeat if I need to feel good or feel laugh. And the current show that I'm watching. Oh, go ahead.
Are you Fire Nation?
Yes, I'm literally. I'm literally. The thing is, I'm like a firebender for sure, but I always wish I was a waterbender. You know, I think you know how, you know, they talk about everyone has a little bit of the elements in them. I notice I'm very much fire and earth and with some air, but something that I like working on is being more flexible, being more fluid. And I always wish I had more of the elements of waterbending in my life, but I'm definitely predominant firebender for sure.
I love it. I can tell.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Azula's crazy, but she is a badass. Like,
oh my gosh, that last episode, she got unhinged that last episode.
I feel so bad for her. You know, like she's 14, and first of all, she is more intimidating than any villain ever. But to be 14 and be more like just that pressure, I can't even imagine. But
I love it. I love her character development.
I love Azula. I'm like, okay, you really need some therapy and some definite therapy.
Yes, that's what I was thinking the whole time. You need a therapist ASAP.
ASAP. But I think with some work, you can be an even better badass queen that you already are. So, but those are my feel good shows. And then the current show that I'm watching right now that I just started season 6 is Lucifer. It is such a good show. So that's my hookup for sure. Watch if you've never watched Lucifer. It's a really cool show. Great soundtrack. It's funny. For some people, it's a little bit too slow. Maybe it gets repetitive, but I personally love it. I love that show. So,
I think you also told me Explained.
Oh man, yes, Explained. Oh my God, Explained is such a good show. I mean, if you want to learn about these really cool things in life that you never really realize are an integral part of you surviving every day, but you want to know how it works, Explained is such an underrated show. And I know people think, oh, it's educational. I don't want to watch anything educational. It's going to be a lot to watch. No, Explained it's engaging. It's interesting. It's spectacular. I love that show. I love that show.
It's on my list, but I'll definitely have to watch it. I just finished Love, Death, and Robots a while ago.
Oh, so good. I love, Death, and Robots. So good.
It's so different. Good. Like every episode is different. There's some that really stick out to you and you're just like, what happened? Like, I don't get it.
No, I just really like that it's, you know, you get to see it's an anthology series, right? So you get to see all these different types of animations, different type of creativity. I think that's a really unique concept for sure. I think Love, Death, and Robots is awesome.
Yeah, so I finished that one, so I'm going down my list, so I'll have to watch Explain next. And Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, I've never read it. Is it a short story or it's a novel?
I'd say like it's a short story, but the length of a mini novel.
Okay. Yeah, I did recently read Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I have. Is it good?
Yeah, he's good. He's like this Indian guy that just I think he lived a pretty proper normal life, got married, have kids. I'm not sure. I can't remember if he became a monk. I think, he became a monk before that happened. So it just completely, it's not something that was, you know, taught to him. It was just something completely different that he wanted to do. And he's like, I'm just going to go be a monk and train in, I believe it was India that he went to, and just lived there for years as a monk. But it's written in a way that's just like any other American self-help book. It's not written in a way has Buddhist scripture or anything like that. It's very much for anyone to read, that's written without jargon, and really a self-help book I feel like everyone should read. So the principles of thinking like a monk. So I'll be looking forward to reading.
Check it out for sure.
Yeah, and I'll read The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I think they probably maybe can coincide as well in your reading.
Probably, for sure. I'll definitely have to
Yeah.
give that one a whirl.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Thanks so much for hooking us up with those recommendations. And what are you currently
Yeah.
working on now that you're excited about launching?
I gotta be honest, nothing. I'm just kind of going day to day, but I think the next project that I have for myself is I think I might go and pursue a PhD in 2 or 3 years, but I think that's my next big project that I'll be tackling.
Oh, wow. In finance as well?
I think I'm going to do it in behavioral economics with like a focus in education. I'm not really quite sure, but I think it's going to still be education economics related. So I will keep you in the loop and keep your listeners in tune if
Oh
they
my goodness.
I
Then
know when I know for sure.
you're gonna be even more of a badass power woman with her
Oh man, I don't know about
fashion
that,
and
but I
PhD.
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
You're gonna be too hot to handle. There's a certain point. You've already crossed that line.
Oh well, thank you. As I have like my frizzy hair and my hair is dyed up because it's a mess. I need to do it later today, but I'm just so tired. I'm like, well, I'll get to it when I get to it.
And then what's this about a TED Talk?
Yeah, gave a TED Talk about reframing the economic mindset, and it's called literally reframing the economic mindset, and it's just a talk to help people and to start looking at economics with a more qualitative approach and start looking at economics as a comprehensive view about well-being and what life needs to be like, and that economics is more than the numbers you see shown on the screen. So it was more to hopefully get people to maybe think a little bit differently about how we view economics and what economics means to make society function effectively and to let society thrive effectively. So it is it's a tough topic, and not everyone's going to agree with it, and that's okay. It's just to inspire people to kind of look at what does economics really mean and how do we change it to be better for ourselves, for sure. So
Okay, so this is a TEDx talk that you did when?
In April of this year, actually, April 2021.
Oh, wow. So it's on YouTube, and we just look for Poonum, Desai, TEDx.
Yeah, you can just type in reframing the economic mindset TEDx, and that will be mine.
Amazing. Okay, cool. You've got like so many things going on. Like it's too many to keep up with.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm so humbled that you asked me to be on here, and I hope that to anyone listening, I hope maybe it helped you, or maybe it inspires you to look at, learn to love yourself a bit more and learn a little bit more about yourself. And yeah, if there's any questions, like Roxy said, please, if you could feel free to ask me, or ask Roxy. I'm happy to help. And if there's questions, Roxy, I'm happy to maybe do another episode. No problem.
Awesome. I feel like you have so much to offer, and I feel so humbled that you agreed to do this. You're barely my third guest, so I feel super, super honored. Like your humility, it's inspiring.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You are an absolute inspiration for girls everywhere. It's the era of women, right? It's the era of women of color.
Era of women.
So thanks for being inspiration to all of us, even in your brokenness. And I think that's where we find the most strength and the most human connectivity. What we can get is when we're feeling the most broken and the most down. But you're just an inspiration. I just had such a good time speaking to you and getting to know you more. So can you tell us about your website and where everyone can reach you after this?
Sure. Website is poonumdesai.com, and Instagram handle is at author Poonum Desai. And those are the best places to reach me, honestly. I don't I don't check it consistently, but I check it the most out of everything else. So that's the best place to reach me. And yeah, again, if you have any questions or comments, concerns, yeah, you can reach me at those places.
Thank you so much, Poonam. I'll talk
Thank
to
you
you
so much,
later.
Roxy. I really appreciate it. Everyone have a great rest of your day.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like the podcast, I would love it if you can leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest at MFMP Pod. And consider supporting the show at patreon.com/MFMP to gain access to exclusive content and bonus perks. And to keep the conversation going, you can tweet me to ask a question or share a comment about what you heard. I would also love to see you post stories to Instagram or Facebook of you listening to the pod or trying any of the activities or recommendations introduced from the Hook You Up segments by my guests or myself. Tag me in your stories or posts at MFMP Pod so I can see and maybe also share along. Until then, stay tuned to hear more from the many faces of many places.